Okay, let's say you've built this magic computer app, and people absolutely love it. So much so that they pay you every single month just for the privilege of using it. You're not shipping boxes, you're not managing a warehouse, you're just selling access. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and look at the finances behind that magic. And that right there is the heart of a SaaS business, software as a service. In this explainer, we're going to unpack the profit and loss statement, the P&L, of a SaaS company. And we're going to do it so simply that by the end, you'll get the fundamentals, you'll be able to spot problems, and you'll understand what makes these businesses really tick. We're going to follow the money down what I like to call the P&L waterfall. It's pretty straightforward. We'll start at the very top with all the money coming in, and then we'll see how it cascades down through different costs until we see what's left at the bottom. It's a 5-step journey from pure revenue to what investors really care about. All right, let's dive right in. Starting at the top of the waterfall with the most exciting part, the money your magic app is actually making. This is the big number, the one that kicks off the whole story. So for most SaaS companies, the money rolls in from subscriptions, just like your Netflix account. And what's really cool is how simple the math is at its core. If you've got 1,000 customers and each one pays you 1,000 rupees a month, that's 1,000,000 rupees in what we call monthly recurring revenue, or MRR. It's predictable, it's consistent, and believe me, to an investor, that is a beautiful thing. Now, you're going to hear two terms thrown around a lot, MRR and ARR. The source material gives us a perfect way to think about it. MRR is like your monthly pocket money, and ARR, or annual recurring revenue, is, you guessed it, your yearly pocket money. The smartest founders out there, they focus on this recurring revenue, not just one-off sales. Okay, so we've got our 1,000,000 rupee revenue stream. That's fantastic. But it's not free to keep that magic app running, is it? So the next big question is, what does it cost you just to deliver that service to your 1,000 customers? This is what we call the cost of goods sold, or COGS for short. Now, in SaaS, goods aren't physical things. We're talking about stuff like your cloud server bills from Amazon or Microsoft, the salaries for your amazing customer support team, and any fees you pay just to process all those credit card payments. These are the costs that are directly tied to serving your users. And this brings us to the first major drop in our P&L waterfall. We take our 1 million in revenue, we subtract the 200,000 in COGS, and we are left with 800,000 rupees. This number is super important. It's our gross profit. And this right here, this is the real magic of a SaaS business. Think about it. Once the software is built, the cost to add one more customer, customer number 1001, is tiny. It's practically nothing. Unlike making cars, where every new car costs a ton of money to build, making another copy of software is almost free. That scalability is what makes this model so incredibly powerful. This incredible scalability leads to ridiculously high gross margins. I mean, a healthy SaaS company usually keeps somewhere between 70 and 90% of its revenue after these direct costs. So our 800,000 from 1 million, that's an 80% gross margin, which is fantastic. And this is the number that gets investors really excited. Why? Because that huge pile of cash is the fuel for the company's growth engine. It's the money they get to reinvest to get even bigger. So that 80% gross margin is amazing. But hold on, we're not done yet. That profit is just from delivering the service. Now we have to talk about the cost of actually growing the entire company. You gotta spend money to make money. These are called your operating expenses, or OpEx, and they usually fall into 3 big buckets. As you can see, a huge chunk, often the biggest, is sales and marketing. That's all your ads and salespeople bringing in new customers. Then you've got R&D, your engineers and designers who are making the product better every day. And finally, there's general and admin, which is kind of the catch-all for everything else, like HR, finance, and rent. All right, this is it. This is the moment of truth. We've seen the money come in, we've taken out the cost to serve our customers, and now we're about to subtract the cost to grow. This next step, this one calculation, really reveals the core health of the business. And the math is right here. We take our hefty gross profit of 800,000 and we subtract those 600,000 in operating expenses we just talked about. And what's left over is 200,000 rupees. That number, that is our operating profit. Just stop and think about that for a second. The business had the potential to make 800,000 rupees in profit from its core service. That's a huge, huge potential. But the reality, after investing all that money in growth, in sales, in making the product better, is 200,000. That big gap, that 600,000 rupees, that's the price of growth. And in this case, hey, the number's positive. That's a great sign of a healthy operation. But here's a fascinating twist. What if that number was negative? You might think, oh no, the company's failing, but not necessarily. A lot of famous SaaS companies, in their early days, intentionally spend way more than they make. They're burning cash on purpose, all to grab as much of the market as they can, as fast as they can. They're sacrificing profit today for what they hope will be total dominance tomorrow. And that idea leads us perfectly into our final section. Because if making an operating profit isn't always the main goal, especially for a startup, then how on earth do investors figure out if a company is successful? Well, they have to look beyond that simple bottom line. So you'll often hear this crazy-sounding acronym, EBITDA. It looks super complicated, I know, but the question it's trying to answer is actually pretty simple. How good is this business at its core at just making money, before you factor in stuff like interest, taxes, and some other accounting items that can muddy the waters? It's basically a way for investors to compare different companies on a more level, apples-to-apples playing field. And you've got to remember, what an investor cares about totally changes depending on how old the company is. For a young, scrappy startup, it is all about one thing: growth. Is that revenue number climbing like crazy? But for a bigger, more mature company, they're going to demand both. They want to see continued growth and real sustainable profits. So if we were to boil this whole explainer down into a simple formula for success, this would be it. First, you need that high, predictable recurring revenue. Second, you need a really low cost to serve those customers, which gives you that beautiful high gross margin. Third, you spend that margin smartly to keep growing. And fourth, maybe the most important ingredient of all, you need customers who love your product so much they stick around for a long, long time. Which brings us right back around to our big question. If your magic app is losing money on paper, if its P&L is in the red, is it actually failing? Well, now you know the answer isn't so simple. You have to ask a different question. Is it losing money because the business model is broken? Or is it strategically investing in growth to go out and win the future? And that, my friends, makes all the difference in the world.